Good morning, dear students. A very hearty welcome to GC Tech Hub CS tutorials. In today's class, we are going to discuss about different types of internet connections. So let's move on to our chapter. So we are going to see the different types of internet connections today. Let's see the list of types of connections. So these are the different types of connections which you can uh, opt for whenever you want a connection to the internet. The very first and primary type of internet connection is the dial-up connection, and it is a temporary connection which uses the public switched telephone network, okay, to connect to the internet. So what is it? It's your computer which is connected to a dial-up modem which is connected to the telephone lines, and then you are connected to the ISP's server, which gives you a connection to the internet. So this is how the internet connection is established in a dial-up connection. The dialing process, it is a connection between the computer and the ISP with the help of a modem, and usually it is a limited time duration connection. That is, you need to dial the ISP's modem, and once you do that, your computer is going to this connection is going to search for any available free ports on the ISP's computer or ISP's server, which will provide you with an internet connection. During the peak hours, normally it is very difficult to get a free available port for connection on the ISP's server, and when it's not so peak hour, like from, we should say, after 10 p.m., from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. in the morning. That is usually the time when most people are not working on the computer. This was the condition around 10 to 15 years ago. Most people used to log on to the internet only during the office hours, that is from 10 a.m. or morning 8 a.m. to evening 6 p.m. or 10 p.m. So that was the time when most offices, colleges, universities, schools, they were open, and mostly internet's use was basically limited to domestic uses, and for sending emails, for browsing the internet. We didn't have smartphones, so the amount of traffic was also less, but even then it was very difficult to get a connection to the internet. So you had to keep on dialing the ISP's modem and ISP server till the time you get the connection. So it uses a telephone line to connect to the ISP server, and hence it is slower than other types of internet connections, and user cannot use the internet and phone at the same time. This was one of the most prominent drawbacks of dial-up connection. Once you get a call, your internet connection is disrupted because the same line is being used for carrying voice as well as data. So ISP's number is dialed. So the ISP would send some personnel to your house. During installation, the engineer would just create a small new connection icon on your desktop and would configure the ISP's number here. So this ISP's number would be created and you would be given a username, and if you prefer to even protect this connection that no one else should start the connection, so you would be getting a password over here. So you had to click on this dial button, and this would just try to establish a connection with your ISP's server. Next was ISDN, Integrated Services Digital Network. Now, one more thing about dial-up connection was the maximum speed was only up to 56 kbps, which is much less. You can only simply be able to browse and send emails in that. No real-time streaming of movies or videos, no listening to audio or heavy file downloads. All those things couldn't be imagined. with such less speed. So after that came ISDN, that is Integrated Services Digital Network. So it was a set of communication standards for digital telephone connection, that is carrying data over digital lines. So transmission of voice and data is done over a digital line. Transmission medium is the same, but it has more data carrying capacity as compared to those of your dial-up connection, and it doesn't use the telephone service, it doesn't share the existing telephone lines, but a dedicated line is established between the ISP and the subscriber. There are two levels of service in ISDN. The first one is the basic rate interface BRI, intended for the home and small enterprise, and second is the primary rate interface, which is for larger users. Now you must be wondering how digital signals are carried. So there are different modulation techniques which are followed for communication of analog data in the form of analog data in the form of digital signal in the form of analog signal, and digital data in the form of in the form of digital signals only, where data travels with the help of electromagnetic waves only, but pulses are generated corresponding to the data bits. So that is how a digital line is more preferable than an analog line, because there are less chances of attenuation, and even more data can be carried from that. So basic rate interface, the BRI, was for home and small establishments, and PRI, primary rate interface, was for large corporate players. Both rates divide their capacity across a number of channels, like B channels carry the data and voice, and D channels carry control and signaling information, which is used for controlling. And basically, signaling means its first connection has to be established between the sender and source and the destination. Then they would agree upon a certain point, the certain protocols, and the sender would be sending its data, which would be received by the receiver, and the receiver would be acknowledging it back. So all these are what control and signaling information, and the actual data is it comes under B channels. So the maximum speed is only up to 128 kbps, which is a little more than dial-up, but still considerably less. Now, what is the ISDN connection structure? So this is the connection structure where you can see that we have the ISP, the internet service provider, and it works on the primary rate interface. And here we have a small company, and these are all small establishments, and this is a private user. So basic rate interface data travels through basic rate interface to all these subscribers. Okay. And this is a general installation at any particular site where you have the ISDN modem, which is connected to the telephone line, and it is connected to the phone and the telephone instrument, the handset, and the computer through digital medium. Next is broadband, which is the most popular type of internet connection. High data transmission internet connection, which allows us to watch and download videos, check out live news, share huge files easily. We can work on internet and make a phone call at the same time. DSL and cable are considered high speed broadband connections. So digital subscriber line. So it is a high bandwidth broadband information to homes and small businesses over standard copper telephone lines. Now copper telephone lines are what? They are the ones which carry the data in the form of electromagnetic waves only, but in the form of digital pulses, which are modulated using different methods. So there are two flavors of DSL, one is SDSL and one is ADSL2. So SDSL is basically your symmetric DSL and ADSL is your asymmetric DSL. SDSL means if you are going for SDSL, it would mean the same download and upload speed. And if you talk about ADSL, it would mean different download and upload speed, where mostly the download speed is greater than the upload speed. So this is what ADSL, where the download speeds are greater than the upload speeds, because normally it is considered that people would be downloading more than they would upload data. Unless and until you are a very passionate YouTuber, you are going to perform more downloads as compared to uploads. So ADSL is asymmetric, and that is the most favored and the most popular type of DSL connection. So the most common forms of DSL are ADSL, asymmetric DSL, ADSL2 plus, which is a bit improved version of ASL. It splits a single telephone line into separate voice and data channels, allows you to make a phone call while surfing the internet, because here the data, normally the internet data travels through a different channel and voice travels through a different channel. So you can practically perform both, taking calls, talking to people on the phone and accessing internet at the same time. Download speeds are up to 170 Mbps. Sometimes it can even be more, up to 200 Mbps. Even companies are providing such speeds, and uploads at up to 27 Mbps. So let's see a trivia. GFast is a fiber to the node DSL technology that has obtained accelerated speeds of 170 Mbps over a quarter mile in the lab and 1 Gbps over a less usable 100 yards, that is 300 feet, in the same setting. So it works best over short distances. Yes, the speed will mostly depend upon the amount of obstacles in the path, and if there is any kind of interference due to electromagnetic signals being transmitted by other surrounding devices. So all these factors have to be kept into consideration. So in a lab, the speeds would be very high because normally it's a controlled setting. But outside that, when it comes to the actual speeds, that is always less than the theoretical speed. Let's see the ADSL deployment, how ADSL is deployed, uh, or what type, how do we subscribers or any domestic subscriber get a connection. So this is our house and we normally own a laptop, and this is the ADSL modem, and we would have a phone line also. So the phone line is connected to, we will see, and the laptop is connected to the modem. So both the phone line and the data line. So you can see that this is the voice line and this is the data line which carries the internet. So they both are connected to a splitter. So we have an ADSL splitter which splits the incoming signal into two channels. One is the voice and one is the data channel. Normally voice channel has lower frequency, or it has a lower bandwidth as compared to, it can carry frequencies towards the lower end of the spectrum because they refer to the voice grade medium, and data would, we have the capacity of carrying voice plus data because it is a high bandwidth medium. Then this ADSL splitter is connected to the POTS exchange splitter. POTS stands for plain old telephone service. So we can also say it is the PSTN, that is public switch telephone network, that is our telephone exchange. You can just imagine it. So POTS exchange splitter. So we have a larger splitter which takes incoming connections from various subscribers and it divides it into two channels. One is the digital, which goes in, one is the set of data channels which goes into the DSLAM, which is the DSL access multiplexer. Digital subscriber line access multiplexer. So it is the DSLAM, that is the DSL access multiplexer, which is actually used for handling, which is there with the ISP at the ISP's end, and this device, it handles all the data signals and provides the internet connection to the people. And another end from the POTS exchange splitter, it is connected to the PSTN, that is public switch telephone network, and this handles all the voice signals. So these are the voice signals and these are the data signals. So these signals are voice and these refer to the internet, that is data, and they both are uh, I mean just if you want the incoming signals, then they are merged together into one single signal which goes into the ADSL splitter, and I have used green color to specify that this is the channel which is enough for carrying voice plus data. And then this comes to our house. So this is how at our end the data is split, data signal is split into voice and data, and this is how when you talk about outgoing communication, it's also the direction is opposite but the method is the same. Both our voice and data would be merged into one. It would be sent to this POTS splitter where it will be splitted into two different channels. So that is the reason why we are able to communicate with people using both voice as well as internet. Next is we can see how it takes place. So we have subscriber modems, that is these are the domestic consumers. They could be domestic, they could be corporate consumers, and this is the central office of the ISP, internet service provider. The service provider would have his DSLAM, which would be connected to the subscriber modem via plain copper telephone lines, the existing copper lines. And we have to just imagine that these two subscribers are quite near to the ISP central office. That is why these copper cables are enough, more than enough for providing a high speed connection. But those, suppose these two subscribers subscribe, this is subscribe, let's say that this is subscriber 1, this is 2, this is 3, and this is 4. So subscriber 1 and 2 are located quite near to the ISP central office, whereas subscriber 3 and 4, they are located in a remote area. So from the central office to the nearby local office, DSLAM, they both are connected via fiber optic link. The DSLAM at the central office and the DSLAM at the local office, which is situated towards the outskirts of the city, which is just another branch of the ISP. Uh, there would be fiber optic links which is providing the internet connection, and from this local office DSLAM to the subscriber modem you would have what the normal copper service. So this is fiber to the node, FTTN connection, where this local office is considered as a node, and fiber optic links are only up to this node, and subscribers are actually, they don't have to face any major changes in infrastructure, and hence still by using a combination of fiber optic links and twisted pair cables or coaxial cables, easily very high speed, considerably high speed connection could be achieved. So this is known as fiber to the node, and in some places and some service providers even provide direct fiber to the home, FTTH connection, where even these cables would be replaced by fiber optic transmission medium. That would be bit expensive than the existing one, but it would be very high speed connection. Next is cable internet broadband. Same infrastructure as cable television. We already know that we have our TV which is connected to a set-top box and which is in fact connected to our dish antenna. So, but this is what is the new technology which we have shifted to within a span of 4 to 5 years. And before that, it was cable broadband, where sorry, it was cable television network, where our system, our television, would be connected to the amplifier of our cable service provider. We also had service providers at that time, and they were local players who were situated in the within the periphery of a city only, like city cable, city TV, and so on. And they were they would install amplifiers at certain locations, and those amplifiers would have around 3 to 4 available ports to which some nearby subscribers would be connected to. So that was the hence cable broadband is what it also uses the same infrastructure as cable television. Network edge connectivity, that is last mile access from internet service provider to an end user, integrated into the cable television infrastructure. Up to 1 Gbps of download speeds are provided, and upload speeds are 384 kbps to 50 mbps, but it is quite expensive as compared to DSL. So normally we have a head end which is connected via fiber to a switch. So you can just see the switch is connected again by a fiber node. So it uses fiber optic cables for giving connection to the various subscribers. So here you can see that this is a fiber node, that is you can just connect this fiber node with the various subscribers via coaxial cable. So cable television network uses a combination of fiber optic cables and coaxial cables for high speed internet connection. So that is the same everywhere, you can just see it. So we have subscribers which are connected. This drop cable could be made up of coaxial cables only, fiber optic cables, or it are plain twisted pair cable. So this is how cable television network is provided. And some broadband service providers, cable broadband service providers in India are, you can just see them: Railtel, GTPL, that is Gujarat Telephone Provider Limited, Gujarat Telelink Private Limited, and this is actually Gujarat Telelink Private Limited. Then we have City Broadband, Hathway Broadband Internet. They already are a player in cable television, and then they are mostly, these cable internet service providers are mostly local players situated in a city. So some more examples, you can see SpectraNet, which is situated in Bangalore, which provides services in Bangalore, Ghaziabad, Noida, Chennai, Gurgaon, Pune, Delhi, Mumbai. Then you have ACT FiberNet, and these are the things. Now, what is the home installation architecture? You have a cable point which goes into the splitter, that is the signals which are coming from your ISP, they are split in via a splitter into two signals, which first goes into the DOC SIS modem, then it goes into the cable TV set-top box. This modem is connected to your computer and set-top box is connected to the TV. This DOC SIS stands for data over cable service interface specification. So it travels over the cable television network. So one end goes into the television and other goes into the TV, unlike the DSL or dial-up connection, where the other end goes into the telephone line. Next is unguided media, using unguided media, that is wireless connections. And in that, the most prominent one is the Wi-Fi which we use, which is actually wireless fidelity. And usually we have a splitter where one end is connected to the phone, other end goes into the router, that is your router modem. It is actually the router here. And then through this you can connect various devices, gaming consoles, smartphones, laptops, etc. Range up to 150 feet indoors and 300 feet outdoors. You can just see how it takes place. This is the existing telephone line. It goes into the splitter, one end goes into the phone, and it provides up to like 128 kbps to 2 mbps or even more depending upon the internet connection. And then one end goes into the DSL modem, and this DSL, now this splitter can go into the DSL modem, and that is for connecting on the devices through wired medium. And then this modem could also be connected to the Wi-Fi router, which can be used to connect all the wireless devices. So here you have, it is developed by the Wi-Fi Alliance. Some compatible hardware like mobile phones, personal computers, gaming consoles can be connected to it. And it makes use of omnidirectional radio waves, that is radio waves which can propagate in any direction. As we already know that radio waves are they can penetrate walls, so you can even get you can get connected to the Wi-Fi modem even if you are situated in different rooms. Usually it is password protected, but sometimes it may be open depending upon whether an open Wi-Fi if we are using a Wi-Fi hotspot for a college campus or a school campus or an office building. Many devices can be connected through Wi-Fi provided they are Wi-Fi compatible. Such an access point has a range of 150 feet indoors and 300 feet outdoors. And these are the various Wi-Fi security keys which are used for protecting our Wi-Fi network for unauthorized intrusion from outside or anybody breaking into the network, hacking it, or anybody just trying to share the internet connection and use it for free. So students, with this we conclude today's class. I hope you have understood the various types of internet connections, and then in the next class we would be talking about some other types of connections like WiMAX and cellular networks.